Tools and Payroll. Okay, so now in this section, we're going to recognize some of the functionality like recurring transactions. We'll discuss in detail sales receipts and recurring transactions for payments. We'll discuss also how to do payroll, and we'll discuss reconciliation as well. Okay. All right. So let's start with recurring transactions. So again, you can create recurring transactions, for example, for bills, if you have a fixed amount of a bill that you're going to be paying every month. Okay. So if it's a fixed amount, might as well create a bill, mark it recurring. Okay. That way, every month you're reminded that you have to pay it. An invoice. You want to do a recurring transaction of an invoice if you want QuickBooks to automatically create an invoice every month for a fixed amount of a client that maybe you have a fixed monthly contract, and you can actually schedule that invoice to automatically be sent to your client for payment. You can do a sales receipt if your client is going to pay you with a credit card automatically. So if your client's going to pay you with a credit card automatically, which we discussed in module 2, then you would do a sales receipt with a recurring transaction. And if money comes out of your bank automatically every month, let's say Comcast charges $275 automatically every month, you don't want to create a recurring bill for that because you still have to go in there and pay the expense. If the money's coming out of the bank automatically, then you're not going to create a recurring bill. You're going to create a recurring expense. That's kind of the difference between the four types of recurring transactions. Now, scheduled versus unscheduled, right? You can actually schedule some of these recurring transactions for them to be automatically created, or you can make them unscheduled, which means you save them into a sort of memorized transaction, and then you can recall them later on. This is very useful for complicated invoices that contain packages and discounts and moving parts. You can create a recurring invoice that's unscheduled. That means it's just there waiting for you to pull it on demand, not necessarily going to be created for a specific customer automatically. Okay. And again, if expenses are an auto pay, make sure that you are using an expense, not a bill. Okay. So all recurring transactions are going to have that little pop-up in the top where you actually choose whether it's monthly, weekly, when's the starting date, when's the ending date, regardless of the transaction. Now, let's move on to attaching documents. So this is actually a really quick section. So anytime you create a transaction, every transaction at the bottom gives you the capacity to attach documents. So attaching documents is just going into the bottom piece, scroll down, and then there's a little box that says attachments. You can either just drag and drop attachments in there, or you can click on it and search it somewhere in your computer. On the right side, on the what they call the drawer, on the drawer on the right side, on the drawer on the right side, you can also attach documents not to a transaction, just to the document center or to attachment center. By clicking on the gear box and clicking attachments, you can attach anything you want in there. And then later on, as you create expenses, you can add the attachments from the unlinked attachments that are sitting there in the document center. That's what the drawer on the side is for us to bring in attachments that were just sitting there in the document center. Or you can manually one by one drag and drop it into the transaction, or click on attachments and upload it from there. So that's how attachments work. Now, registers, the bank registers are used for you to review the activity inside of any balance sheet account. So I'm actually going to pull up QuickBooks here. That's usually easier to show than just to show a screenshot. Here where it says go to register, that will take you into the register of that particular account we were looking at. We can go into a bank register through there, so through clicking transactions, banking, and then go to register. That's one way. The other one is to click on the gear button, the top right, then go into chart of accounts, and then looking for the register I want to go into, and then double clicking on it or clicking on view register. Those two ways allow you to go into the bank register. So in the bank register, we can see all of our deposits and payments. And here in the top left, I can actually use different filters Maybe I want to see only this month, and maybe I only want to see not transactions that have not been reconciled, and I only want to see, let's say, checks, and I hit apply, and it'll show me just the transactions that I filter with. So that's actually really, really neat from the register. And if I want to edit any of these in particular, I would just click on it and click on edit, and it will take me to the screen where I can fully change anything in that transaction. So the register becomes sort of a good index or a good guide for us to check for transactions if they're accurate or inaccurate, whatever. Okay, so that's the register. Okay, now reconciling. The purpose of reconciling is to make sure that our bank balances match our QuickBooks balances, or our financial institution balances match our QuickBooks balances. We can also monitor changes to reconcile transactions. So as an accountant, if you reconcile your banks and your client quote unquote screws it up, you actually can see all of the things that the client has done, and you can even undo the reconciliations and redo them. Okay, so when you go reconcile, you basically click on the gearbox, on the gear icon, click on reconcile. You choose the account at the top. You're going to choose the ending date, the ending date of that month. You're going to enter the ending balance, and you're going to mark all the checks that cleared and debit card transactions that cleared on the left side. You're going to mark all the deposits that are in your bank statement that match QuickBooks on the right side. If they're missing, you're going to create them. If they're wrong, you're going to go in there and edit them. If there's duplicates, obviously you're going to delete them. And at the end, your difference should be 0. Okay, that means that all debits and all credits match your bank. And then you're going to click on Finish Now. Okay, so I'll show you a quick demonstration of that. So I'm going to go to the gearbox, click on Reconcile. Okay, I choose the bank account that I want to reconcile. Let's say it's a checking account. I click Reconcile Now. Then here I pick whatever statement I want to reconcile. Let's say I want to reconcile up to May 31st. Ending balance, I'll pick it from a bank statement. Let's say it's 12,000. And then I take my bank statements and I check that all these clear checks and all these deposits match my bank. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to go ahead and reconcile this whole thing. Okay, and let's say my real ending balance is this one, 10,322.49. Actually, let's say the real balance is 1,667.51. So I'm actually getting this from, I'm actually going to get this from the bank statement. Okay, then I get down to a difference of 0. I click on Finish Now. Okay, and something that's typical is you reconcile your banks, you're doing good, and then somebody else that's obviously not you, not the accountant, goes into a transaction and says, oh, I'll just change the amount, right? So after the account has been cleared and reconciled, somebody went in there and changed the amount. Okay, and it gives them a warning saying, hey, you're editing a transaction that's been reconciled, and they ignore it. They say, yes, whatever, I don't care. Okay, so what ends up happening is when I try to reconcile the next month, my beginning balance doesn't work, and then that's when people start freaking out. So here in the reconcile window, I'm going to click on gear reconcile. Okay, notice that there's a little track here on the right that says changes. If I actually click on the 2692, it gives me a report of everything that was changed. It tells you what the beginning amount was when you cleared it, what the current amount is, I clicked it by mistake, and what changed. So that lets you know exactly what you need to do. I need to click on it and change the dollar amount. Okay, perfect. Okay, somebody says, how do I access the document center that you mentioned earlier? Sure. So when I click on the gear box on the top right and click on attachments, that's what I refer to document center. It's just called attachments. So I click on gear attachments, and then from here I can upload any pictures, receipts, PDF files. I can upload anything up there, and then basically sits there and it's there into my attachments. This is not linked to any transaction. It's just loose in there. Okay, so this is just loose in there. This is not attached to anything. But then when I create an expense, I'll show you real quick. Let me do an expense here. Okay, and I click on show existing. This is where I can pick any of the attachments that I have sitting there that's unlinked, and I can click on add, and I can effectively just add uh, that attachment that was not linked to any transaction, and now it's officially linked to an expense account. Perfect. Okay, and then last piece is reconciling. End users, clients don't have access to undoing a reconciliation. Only accountants can undo a reconciliation. Okay, payroll options. Let's talk about payroll options. There are basically 4 products that you should consider for so working with your clients with payroll if you're working with QuickBooks Online. One of them is called QuickBooks Full Service Payroll. The other one is called QuickBooks Online Payroll. Those first two that have the word QuickBooks in the beginning, those are built in or they're embedded into QuickBooks Online. They're within the same area, they're within the same interface. The last two, Intuit Online Payroll for Accounting Professionals, is a service that allows accounting professionals to run multiple payroll clients. It manages all from one place, but it's not within QuickBooks Online. It's an entirely different interface and allows you to run multiple customers. But yes, it will transfer the information over so you don't have to do double data entry. So that's good. And there's also Intuit Full Service Payroll, which again is it's like the one I just discussed, which is full service. That means that Intuit is responsible for paying the taxes, filing the forms, that sort of thing. But it's also not embedded into QuickBooks Online. So if it has the word QuickBooks in it, it's built in or embedded into QuickBooks Online. If it has the word Intuit in it, it is separate in a different website, in a different interface. If it has the word full service, that means Intuit is responsible for filing forms, paying taxes. If it doesn't have the word full service on it, the user is the one that's going to have to press the buttons to pay the taxes and press the buttons to file the forms. Although the service includes the creation of the forms, you still need to submit them, and the user will still have to submit them. This matrix is pretty good. Kind of gives you an idea where all the different payroll options are and which way you should go based on what you're trying to achieve. And just keep in mind that when you're going to set up a full service payroll, which is actually a very popular service in the QuickBooks world, when you're going to set up full service payroll, the client has to give sort of a reporting authorization agent form, which they'll prepare for you. But just make sure that you have that you're ready to fill out that form so Intuit can be your reporting agent, and also have all the information about the current payroll, all your employee information, direct deposit accounts, year-to-date information from paychecks if you're doing a mid-year payroll transfer. With the payroll service, with the full service payroll service, that conversion is free and included. Okay. Now, earlier at the beginning of the webinar, we discussed the concept of wholesale billing, where you get a 50% discount if you, the accounting professional, pays for the QuickBooks Online account instead of your client. Okay. So if you create the account from your screen, it will ask you who is going to be paying. If you put you're paying the accounting professional, you will get 50% discount on the account. If you put my client will pay, you will get a discount. sort of in short term, and then after a year or 6 months, whatever the promotion is goes by, it will revert back up to its regular price. Now, you can bundle payroll with your QuickBooks Online subscription. So if you are paying for QuickBooks Online, which is, let's say for Plus is $40 a month, plus you're adding payroll, which is another $40 a month, you will end up paying $40 a month for both. So $20 a month for each service, right? For the QuickBooks Online and also for payroll, right? So that 50%, it's applicable to payroll subscriptions as well. Now, QuickBooks Online Payroll, what does the experience look like? So basically, on the left of the screen, on the left navigation bar, if we click on employees, and this is where I can go edit my employees, add employees, change employee information. That's all going to be in the left navigation bar under employees. It's not in the gear menu. It's not in the create button. To set up your employees and to run payroll, you go to the left navigation bar and you click on employees. Should write that down, by the way. Anyway, when I'm in this screen, I'm going to click on Turn on Payroll. You will automatically be enrolled in a 30-day trial of payroll, so you can test it. If you cancel within 30 days, you don't have to pay the payroll fee. And then after you click on Turn on Payroll, it will walk you through all the steps. It will say, okay, what are all your employees' names, W-4 information, what's their pay schedule, what deductions and additions do they have, and what are their rates. So you have to be prepared to create all that stuff when doing the payroll setup. Now, to change payroll settings, like which GL account or which chart of accounts account is going to be affected by taxes, or do I pay weekly, or sorry, do I pay semi-weekly, do I pay quarterly, do I pay monthly, my 941 taxes, all that stuff can be changed in the payroll settings menu, which is in the gear box. You click on the gear box or the gear icon and then click on payment settings. I'm sorry, payroll settings. And again, this is where I change my pay schedules, vacation policies, deductions, contributions, all that stuff. Okay. So GL accounts, connecting your payroll through direct deposit, changing the tax schedules or the tax rates for the unemployment tax, that sort of thing. That's all in the payroll preferences or payroll setup portion in the gearbox on the top right. Now, running payroll is actually really, really easy. Few steps. So after you run payroll, everybody's configured, all the rates or all the schedules are in there. You literally just click on Run Payroll, and the next screen will ask you which schedule is this, because you can run all the monthlies in one shot, all the quarterlies, but there's not that much quarterly payroll out there. All the monthlies in one shot, all the weekly payrolls in one shot, all the bi-weekly payrolls in another shot, right? So you can group them based on their payroll frequency. After you pick the payroll frequency, all the employees that land under that frequency will be listed there. I choose the bank account that I'm going to pay through, the pay period. If these employees put their time information in the timesheets, that information will flow through directly, or I can add the hours in there. Okay, and then once you confirm that the salaries and the hours and additions and commissions, whatever, are all correct, we're going to go ahead and process the payroll. And then after you review the taxes, the net pay, the employer taxes, the employee taxes, how much of them are going to be issued through checks, how much of it will be direct deposit, and you agree with all that stuff, you will click review and submit, and it will post it into QuickBooks and send the information through Intuit. Okay. Now there is a mobile app that can actually process payroll. You can pay employees, pay taxes, and file forms all within the app. So strongly recommend that. Also, the payroll reports themselves, they're going to be under the report section. We're going to click on manage payroll, and then we'll click on all the different payroll options that are there. Basically, the most important report that you'll be having access to is the payroll summary report, right? Which basically gives me the summary amount paid for all the employees during the last payroll cycle. There's also the tax liability report. Those are the two. One is to see all the details per check. The other one is to see all the details per agency that I have to pay. So that would be the tax liability report.